Okay guys, let's get started. We're looking at section 8.2 in chapter 8. We're going to be looking at arithmetic sequences and series. Now, when you see this word, you probably think arithmetic, but we only call it arithmetic when it's a noun. When it's an adjective, as it's describing the sequence and the series, we actually pronounce it as arithmetic. Yep. So what we want to do is, once again, this is arithmetic sequence and series. So we want to be able to find the rule for an arithmetic sequence. We also want to be able to evaluate the arithmetic sequence. So when we have an arithmetic sequence, it means the difference of consecutive terms is going to always be constant. It's always going to be the same value. We can find the common difference by just subtracting a term from the one in front of it. So like, if we have a list, we can just subtract to find the common difference. An arithmetic series is going to be the expression formed by adding the terms of an arithmetic sequence. So we have the sequence and we just change it from commas to addition, and then it's going to be an arithmetic series. All right, so let's look at an example here. The nth term of an arithmetic sequence with the first term of a sub 1 and a common difference of d. This is going to be the formula that we can use right here. This is a new formula. Most of you have already been using this formula. So this one is saying to find the nth term, we do a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times the d. But most of you have been doing a sub n equals d times n plus question mark. So you find that common difference, and then you put an n, and then you say plus what? So I'm going to show you that with this first example. Find a rule for the nth term of an arithmetic sequence with the first term of 3 and a common difference of 2. So the first term is 3. What's the next one? 5, 7, 9, etc. Okay? So one way to find the rule for this is to do a sub n equals a sub 1, which is 3, plus n minus 1, and then that d value is 2. So now I would have a sub n equals 3 plus 2n minus 2, which is a sub n equals 2n plus 1. So that's using this new formula right here. But guys, this was a problem we just did in our warm-ups. You guys didn't know this formula, and you were still able to figure it out, right? So the way that we've been doing this is when we notice that common difference, we know it's going to be a sub n equals dn plus question mark. And then we just say, okay, how can I make this work? Well, just add 1. So it's a sub n equals 2n plus 1. So I think most of you are in the habit of doing it this way already, so we might as well stick with this one. But if you get stuck on a problem, you might want to go back to this formula. Okay. Find the equation of the nth term of an arithmetic sequence with the third term of 7 and a d value of negative 2. All right, so let's look at this. We don't know the first term, we don't know the second term, we do know the third term is 7. They tell us the d value is negative 2. So what would have been this term right before it? 9. What would have been the one before that? Now, you can either use this formula or this formula to find out what the equation would be. Let's just try using this one. A sub n equals, what's the common difference? What is it? Negative 2n plus, now what would I have to add in order for this first term to be 11? Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus 2 would give me 0. I want it to be 11. 13. Okay, so if you can do it that way, great. Now I should check my second term. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, plus 13 is 9. Let's check that one. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, plus 13 is 7. It works. Or I could have used this formula, guys. I could have done a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. I would then get 11 minus 2n plus 2, which is a sub n equals negative 2n plus 13. So you have to make a decision whether you prefer this formula or this formula. Okay? Now, finding the sum of a finite arithmetic series. Here again, we have two formulas. This formula says we're going to have the number of terms, and then we have the first term plus the last term divided by 2. I personally prefer this form of it, where instead of putting the 2 under this, I put the 2 under the n. You can have the 2 either place. I like this one, and I'll show you why. When we looked at that rule that Gauss came up with, or how he figured out the answer to the sum of those numbers from 1 to 100, he actually used this form because he added the first number and the last number. What was the sum of the first and the last? 101. And then he did times what? 50. And 50 is just the number of terms he had divided by 2. So I think this one is easier for me to memorize because I just think of that whatever he did. So he added the first and the last, got that, and then he multiplied it by the number of terms, which was 100 divided by 2, because he had 50 pairs of 101s. However you want to do it is fine. Both formulas work. So now let's do it for this. We've got 7, 3, negative 1, negative 5. We're trying to find s sub 6. This means the sum of the first 6 terms. Well, they haven't given us all 6 terms. They've only given us 4. What would be the next term? And the next one? Negative what? Negative 13, right. Because what the pattern is, subtract 4, subtract 4. That's our d value. Just subtract 4. So once we have these all listed out, I can find the sum of the first 6 by doing the number of terms. So how many terms do we have? So it's going to be 6 divided by 2 times the first term plus the last term. So it's going to be 3 times negative 6. So the sum of those 6 terms is going to be negative 18. On something that easy, I could have just done 10 minus 1 is 9, 9 minus 5 is 4, 4 minus 9 is negative 5, negative 5 minus 13 is negative 18. I could have just figured it out that way too. But we're not always going to have just 6 terms. We might have 100 terms. So, all right, let's come over here. This didn't print out very well. So I want you to look at these 4 problems. And I want you to decide if these are going to be arithmetic or not for 1, 2, 3, 4. You can talk it over with your partner. So what do you guys say for number 1? No. Because it's 3, 3, then it goes to 5, so no. What about number 2? Yeah. Yes. What about number 3? Yes. And what about number 4? No. This one is kind of tricky because a lot of times people look at it and they're like, well, we're adding 2 every time. We're only adding 2 to the denominator, not to the entire value. So this is a no. Could you come up with this one? A sub n equals what? 1 over 2n, yep. That is not arithmetic. Arithmetic would have to be nd plus question mark or the other formula we discussed. Let's come up with the formula for this one real quick. A sub n equals, what's our d value here, you guys? It's 0.2. So it has to be 0.2n plus what to make it work out? 0.1, right. Okay, so that would be that one. All right, in this one, write a rule for the nth term of the sequence, then find a sub 20. We're not going to do the first two, we're just going to do the bottom two here. They're a little more difficult. All right, so we want to find a rule for a sub n first of all. See if you can do that for these two. Find a sub n's formula. Did you get that for number 7? So we're going up by 1/2 every time, and then to make the first term work, and every term work as a matter of fact, I have to subtract 1 1/2. 1/2 times 1 is a half minus 1 1/2 is -1. And once I have my formula, then I can plug in 20 and find out what that 20th term is, instead of sitting there and adding on a half until I get up there. Okay, what's the d value here in number 8? So it's going to be -0.5 n. All right, now think about it, guys. How can I make it so it works? On this first term, I want to get 0.7. Plus what? I hear some people whispering it. 1.2, right? So I need the first term to work. I need all these terms to work. I'm just going to check it for the 4th term. So -0.5 times 4 would be -2. -2 plus 1.2 is -0.8, so it works. Okay, so you just want to check a couple of your terms just to be sure that they do work. And now we're going to find the 20th term. Go ahead and do that. Find the 20th term. Did you get it? -8.8? All right, very good. Questions? All right, let's go to the other side now. Okay, so this one says write a rule for the nth term of the sequence where a sub 12 is -13 and d is -2. We're not going to do the graphing like it says. We're just going to do this part of it. So guys, look what's happening. We don't know the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. We know the 12th term is -13. We know the d value is -2. Okay? Watch how I'm going to go about this then. You can choose which formula you want to use. I'm going to do the a sub n equals, oops, not plus, a sub n equals dn plus question mark. That's what we keep using. All right, so I don't know. I'm going to do a sub n for now. What is the d value? negative 2. What is the only n value they tell us? Not negative 13. What is the n value they tell us? 12. So I know negative 2 times 12 plus something. When n is 12, what is a sub 12? See, this is what I have so far. I've got a sub 12. I'm plugging in 12 because that's the n value they're giving me. So what is the answer to a sub 12? What's a sub 12, guys? They just gave it to us. What is it? Negative 13. So what's the question mark going to be then? How about 11? So we get a sub n equals negative 2n plus 11. Okay, guys, I feel like people were a little confused there. No? Because I can use the other formula too. Watch, I'm just going to quickly do it with the other formula. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. I don't know a sub 1, but I'm going to find it. Here's how I can find it. A sub 12 I know, so I'm going to plug in 12 for n because I know it. Okay, so a sub 12 was negative 13 equals a sub 1 plus 12 minus 1 is 11. I also know d is negative 2. So I have negative 13 equals a sub 1 minus 22. So a sub 1 is going to be add 22, and that's going to give me 9. So now I know a sub 1. So a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And so now I have a sub n equals 9 minus 2n plus 2. A sub n equals negative 2n plus 11. Can you see why I prefer this one? It's so much faster than going through all of that. Because with this one, you have to find a sub 1, then use that a sub 1 again. So it takes a really long time. Okay, guys, so let's look at this one. Write a rule for the nth term of the sequence. I want to write this out so you can get a feel for how it works. First term, second term, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. I know the eighth term. Right here is when n is 8. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I know the 13th term. When n is 13, I get 99. Now, I'm trying to come up with a rule for this sequence. Do you have any ideas on how I can find d? Anybody know how we could find the d value if we know the 8th term is 59 and the 13th term is 99? So to go from here to here, I'd add d. I'd add d again. I'd add d. I would add d, and then I'd add it one more time. What's that? It is. It is plus 8. How could we get that, though? How could we get the 8 that it actually is? Sam? So we do 99 minus 59 over 13 minus 8, right? That's going to give us that difference every time. So what I'm doing is output minus output over input minus input. All I'm doing is finding the rate of change. Can you guys see how that's really slope? It's the same thing as slope. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over n sub 2 over n sub 1. Okay? So therefore, I'm going to get 40 over 5, which is 8. So 8 is going to be that difference. So now we know our formula is going to have to be a sub n equals 8 times n. And then I have to make this work for the 8th term. I need to have it plus something or minus something so that when I plug in 8 for n, I get 59. I have to be able to, so this is what I'm solving, guys. Question mark. So I'm trying to solve for this question mark. Watch. A sub 8 has to equal 8 times 8 plus some question mark. Do we know the answer for A sub 8? So 59 has to equal 64 plus some value. What is that some value then? -5. So A sub n then has to be 8n minus 5. See how that's going to work? On the 8th term, 8 times 8 is 64, minus 5 is 59. So that's working, isn't it? I could test it on this. 8 times 13 is 104, minus 5 is 99. Okay? All right, guys. Tell me how we find the difference on this one. What do I do? Good. -8 minus -5 over what? Good. So I have to do y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Basically just finding rate of change. So I'm going to get -3 over 9. So -1/3 is going to be the difference. So now our formula has to be A sub n equals d n plus question mark. All right. So let's finish it now. Which term do you want to use, the first or the second? So he choose one, it doesn't matter. First term, okay. So what's the n value on the first term, you guys? 18. So I'm doing A sub 18 has to equal -1/3 times 18 plus the question mark. What is A sub 18? So -5 equals -6 plus the question mark. So what is that missing value right there? 1. And so now it's going to be A sub n equals -1/3 n plus 1. Check it out, make sure it works. If I plug in 18, -1/3 times 18 is going to be 6, -6, plus 1 is -5. All right, let's take a look at number 12. Find the sum of this. This is the sigma notation, so that means to find the sum. You need to use your formula. Do you guys remember the formula? The sum of the first 22 terms is equal to, how's the formula go? All right, that's our formula. So what is the n value? We're going from 1 to 22, so what's the n value? 22. So it's going to be 22 divided by 2. How do we find the first? How do we find A sub 1, the first term? Plug in 1. What do I get if I plug 1 into my formula? So 3 is going to be the first term. How do we find the last term, or the 22nd term? Plug in 22. 5 minus 44. What's 5 minus 44? -39. So now we're going to have 11 times -36. We don't need a calculator for that. What's 10 times -36? And then we need another 36. So minus another 36 because we're doing 11. So it's -396. right? Guys, being able to do math that way, it really picks up your speed on your calculator, because by the time you pick up your calculator and type it in, you could have had that figured out. Okay, I want you guys to take a look at this one and try it on your own. I'm going to be working it up here, but I don't want you to look until you've taken some time to figure it out. So read it and do it with your partner or on your own. All right, I see some people looking up and saying they've got it. Good job. First thing you have to do is understand what the pattern is. Then you have to come up with a formula for it. Okay? We really didn't have to write this step. I just like to write it just to show what's going on. But once we get the formula, we know we have 20 terms, so it's 20 over 2. And then once we had the formula, we already knew the first term. To find the last one, we had to plug in 20. And then we just go ahead and finish the problem. Okay? How many people did get that right on their own? Okay, about a quarter. All right, so you guys need to do some problems on section 8.2. Those are on Canvas as well as on the board.